Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 mini series with the Los Angeles Angels. And we are closing in on the midway point of the 2027 season, and our Angels off to a pretty solid start. We won yesterday to run our record to 37-28. That means we are third place in the AL West, 5 games behind the Mariners and 2.5 games behind the Rangers. But as we sit here on June 13th, we are tied for the second and third wild card in the American League with the Yankees, and a game up on the Red Sox, who are just out of the playoffs looking in at this point. The offense this year has been pretty good. The defense has been better than a year ago, albeit somewhat volatile. And the pitching, particularly our bullpen, continues to be a bit of a problem. Still not too much available on the trade block. So I think over the course of this episode, we're going to focus on trying to continue to win much more than half of our games between now and the midway point of the season, start getting ready for the draft, which will happen about a month from now, and hopefully also continue to peruse the trade market and see if there is someone who can help us for both the near and potentially the long term that's available in a deal. Taking a look at our schedule for the rest of this month, we just snapped a 4-game losing streak yesterday at Philadelphia. We've got 3 in Kansas City before we come home to face Detroit and the White Sox, and then we'll finish off the month in a couple of vintage ballparks, good old Wrigley Field in Chicago, and then the new Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. And our Angels have basically been a 5-win team over the last couple of the weeks. Lost 2 out of 3 at Kansas City, won 2 out of 3 at home against Detroit, won 2 out of 3 at home against Chicago White Sox, and just lost 2 out of 3 at the Chicago Cubs. So it means here 78 games into the season, a 44-34 record, 4.5 out in the division, and we have the final wild card spot in the American League by 4.5 games now over the Yankees, who have lost 8 in a row. Zach Neto, looking for a 30-30 year, tied for second in the AL with 20 homers and third in the AL with 19 stolen bases, as we sit here on June 8th. And here, 78 games into the season seems to be where Artie Moreno thinks is a good time to talk about the midseason goals. Thinks that we've got a shot at getting into the postseason. Not happy that we didn't extend Joe Jimenez, who ended up signing for over $26 million for 1 year as a reliever with the Tigers. So wanted no part of that. Definitely improving attendance, improving fan interest, and we've done, in my opinion, reasonably well with international amateurs, but none of them have made it to the majors yet, which is how he measures things. Top 100 prospects list just updated, and our hopefully future center fielder Andres Rodriguez up to the number 2 spot in all of baseball. He was our first-round pick, 6th overall out of the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown last year. Started this year in Double-A for us, where he hit .264 with 9 homers and 26 ribbies, putting up a 136 WRC+. We promoted him up to Triple-A Salt Lake a couple weeks ago. He's hitting .295 there with a couple homers and 7 ribbies and 44 at-bats. Basically has been a league average offensive player. We're playing him in right field right now in Hill. He's completely proficient there, and then we'll likely pivot him back towards center field, where we think his long-term spot is. His high adaptability, work ethic have certainly been helping his development. You can see his eye and his gap power are viewed as pretty much major league average already by our scout, and his contact and his home run power not too far below. Still think he's got plenty of opportunity to improve in all of the primary hitting categories, which is what we'll hopefully get some progress with over the next couple of months before he's a potential September call-up for our Angels. And at 44 and 34, we've actually gotten a bit lucky. Pythagorean numbers suggest we should be 41 and 37. We have had a winning record every month of the season thus far. June, obviously, still not complete. Fifth in the American League in runs scored, so we've fallen a little bit in that category. Generally, middle-ish of the pack in most of the hitting categories. Runs allowed, we are ninth in the American League. Things have actually pivoted greatly over the last few weeks. Our bullpen ERA is actually now pretty solid. Our starters ERA, however, ranks 11th in the AL. Defense remains middle of the pack, ninth in defensive efficiency, and sixth in zone rating as we sit here on June 28th. And since we just received our mid-season review from Mr. Moreno, we'll take a look at our roster and do our annual roster review. Michael King, who we did sign to that extension a couple of months ago, 4-2 with a 4.48 ERA, 1.3 WAR, so he's definitely been better this season than a year ago, but still hoping he'll ultimately be a little bit better than he has been for us. Reed Detmers, 6-7 with a 4.94 ERA. His all-star appearance from a couple years ago when he led the league in BABIP against him is looking like a bit of a mirage at this point, but still could be a useful pitcher for us for this year. Looking to make about $10 million next season, which is probably getting very fully priced for what he is. Corbin Burns has a 4-5 record in 13 starts after he came off the IL, 4.25 ERA, 1.4 WAR on the season. So he kind of looks like the 2.5 to 3.5 kind of WAR pitcher we thought we were getting when we made the trade for him. Not what he used to be, but still a solid pitcher. Christian Scott has been the best of the bunch this year, 7-5 with a 3.23 ERA, already triple digits in strikeouts, and has put up a 2.0 WAR for us on the season. The problem has been Jose Soriano, 3-6 with an ERA of close to 6. Certainly would love to be able to bring big-time starting pitcher on board in a perfect world, not just for this season, but for the foreseeable future, and get Soriano out of the rotation, but we may not have the opportunity to do that quite yet. Luke Weaver's settled into the closer role pretty nicely in the absence of Ben Joyce. 22 saves on the year, 23 shutdowns to just 3 meltdowns, 2.40 ERA, 174 ERA plus, and a 93 fit minus for the veteran righty. Jason Adams been respectable for us once again with a 3.46 ERA as a setup man. And Colin Snyder, who we picked up on a waiver claim from Seattle right before last season, having another solid year for us with a 2.78 earned run average. Middle relievers doing well as well. Roansy Contreras, who got bumped from the rotation when Burns got back, has a sub-4 ERA over 50 2/3 innings pitched. Garrett McDaniels, the lefty, with an ERA in the mid-3s, and Robert Bob Stevenson, nice bounce back from the injuries that cost him most of the last 2 years, has a 2.67 ERA over 27 innings pitched for us this year. Just called up George Klassen a little while ago when Sam Aldegari had to go on the IL. Klassen has been solid for us in 4 relief appearances with a 3.38 ERA. He was 8-1 with a 3.03 ERA in Salt Lake earlier this year in AAA. Still trying to hold on to a full-time major league spot. And then our lefty specialist, who also serves up as a setup man, Gabe Spire, 2 ERA in 27 innings pitched over 35 games, 33 strikeouts for Spire, who is definitely settled into that lefty specialist role well this season. So we'd certainly accept another big arm in the bullpen, but I think the biggest gap on this team right now is a true frontline starter. Don't think too much is going to change as far as who's available on the trade block over just the couple of weeks that we've simmed since this episode started. You can see still no true difference makers available as far as pitchers, and I'm guessing it's probably still going to be a similar story as far as batters. Yeah, the batters on the trade block look pretty similar to the list that it was at the end of the last episode, so doesn't mean we can't try to make a blockbuster for someone who's not on the trade block, but here on June 28th, most teams think they're still in it. So not a ton of incredible opportunities out there for us to try to trade for at the moment. And before we check in on our position players, we'll check in on the injured list. I mentioned Aldegari. We put him on the 15-day IL a couple of weeks ago and brought up Mr. Klassen, but Aldegari healthy, just 1 day of IL time left. Ben Joyce's return from that hamstring strain still uncertain. Kyle Tucker looks like he's a week away from getting back from that sprained wrist. Tucker was off to a slow start before that injury, 210 average, 7 homers and 21 ribbies. Hopefully, once he recovers from that, he'll be able to play much better in the second half of the season than he did in the first half of this year. Moving on to those who are healthy and well, Logan O'Hoppe, who's our starting DH and our backup catcher, batting average just .225, does have 10 homers and 48 ribbies, so some of the hits have been pretty timely, but just an 81 WRC plus on the season and below replacement level this year, so certainly not as productive offensively as he was for us a year ago. In contrast to O'Hoppe, our starting catcher, Adley Rutschman, is having a better year than he did a year ago, batting average up to .276, 10 homers and 32 ribbies on the season, put up a 112 WRC plus and a 2.0 WAR. He's making a little over $15 million this year, and he is going to be free agent this upcoming offseason, looking for 8 years at about $22 million per season. At this point, going to be a big question whether we bring him back or perhaps turn the position over to O'Hoppe. Vlad Guerrero Jr. Got off to a monster start, was the American League Player of the Month for April. Spent some time on the IL, and he hasn't been as sharp since he got back for the year, hitting .265 now, 16 doubles, 4 triples, 13 homers, driven in 49 runs. 127 WRC plus and a 1.4 WAR on the season for Vladdy Jr. Brooks Lee, starting primarily against left-handed pitching for us, hitting just .228 with a 62 WRC plus, barely above replacement level as a utility infielder. He's in a situation where he's going to be arbitration eligible next year, making about $3 million. We've had him on the team making the minimum. Don't know if we want to be spending $3 million on the likes of him. Willie Castro, also a utility infielder for us this year, signed him as a minor league free agent back in January. He's hitting .289 in limited action, 45 at-bats, but he has been very productive when he has gotten a chance to play. Speaking of productive, Zach Neto having an excellent season. We already talked about the 20 homers and 19 ribbies. Scored 58 runs, OPS close to 900, 146 WRC plus, and a 2.9 WAR. We're able to pivot him to second base this year with the acquisition of Anthony Volpe, and even though he's learning second base on the fly, he's been a bit below average in terms of zone rating and defensive efficiency. My hope is once he is fully up to speed on playing the position, he'll be a little better than average, but hasn't shown that thus far. Addison Barger, all-star third baseman for us a year ago, having an even better year this year, hitting .271, 11 homers, 41 ribbies, 130 WRC plus, and a 2.4 WAR on the season for the 27-year-old third baseman. And the last of the infielders, the shortstop, Anthony Volpe, batting average just 229, does have 7 homers and 9 out of 10 stealing bases. 84 WRC plus is about what we hoped and expected from him. Has a WAR of 0.8 on the season. Fielding wise, he's been pretty close to league average in terms of his zone rating and defensive efficiency. Would hope that he's a little better than that over the second half of the year. Turning to the outfielders, and this is where we've had a lot of platooning going on, at least until Tucker got hurt, and some of the platoons were working pretty well. Right-handed hitting Matthew Lugo, not one of those, hitting just a $198 in 126 at-bats. So a 48 WRC plus, and he has been below replacement level, playing primarily against left-handed pitching, where thought is he should be perhaps a little more effective than he is against right-handed pitching, but looks definitely like a 4th or 5th outfielder at best at this point. Nolan Shanuels also slowed down a bit recently, batting average down to 245, slightly below average offensive player, 12 doubles and 5 home runs in 184 at-bats. Grant McCray, with the injury to Tucker, is now playing center field every day, even against left-handed pitching, which isn't optimal since he's not all that great a hitter, period, and particularly ineffective against lefties. Below the Mendoza line, hitting a $194 on the season, 46 WRC plus, and he's below replacement level despite his good defense. Joe Adell is a guy who's played pretty well in a platoon role, the right-handed hitting outfielder, likely in his final season with us, making $5.7 million and set to become a free agent at the end of this year. 270 average with 10 homers and 34 ribbies in 152 at-bats. He has definitely been strong, playing primarily against left-handed pitching. And then Jorge Ruiz hitting 241 in his first 83 major league at-bats. Below average offensive player, slightly above replacement level. He gives us some good defense, but clearly getting Kyle Tucker back into the mix in the outfield will take away a lot of at-bats from some of these guys who have been getting them recently. Certainly would think a big bat for the outfield would be something that would be great for us to add before the trade deadline. As we talked about, we do have Mr. Rodriguez lurking in AAA, but I don't think he's quite ready to be a difference maker at the major league level yet. Hopefully not too far away from that. And some good news on the injury front. Aldegari back and healthy. We sent him to AAA where he'll start for us for the time being. And Ben Joyce finally ready to begin a rehab assignment. He's been out since mid-April, so 2.5 months at this point. So we're going to give him a little bit of action in AAA before we consider bringing him back up to the majors. Kyle Tucker also could be ready to begin a rehab assignment in less than a week. Borderline for him whether we're even going to put him on a rehab assignment or just bring him right back up to the major league roster, however. Given that we haven't had great production from some of his replacements in the outfield, might just make the most sense to let him shake off the rust and work off any kind of coldness that he has at the major league level. And our old buddy Mike Trout has been pretty healthy this year in Baltimore. Just won the AL Batter of the Month for the month of June. And on the season, Trout hitting 287 with 11 homers and 40 ribbies, 132 WRC plus and a 2.4 WAR. Not quite what he was putting up in his MVP years, but definitely the most robust production that he's had in quite some time. Batted over 400 with 8 dingers in the month of June. And as July begins, we are still in 3rd place in the AL West, 4.5 behind the Rangers now, who have passed by the slumping Mariners. And we are holding on to the 3rd wild card spot, 5 games up on the Royals, who are followed by the Yankees, White Sox, and Rays. So starting to break things open a little bit in the wild card race, but still a contender in the division, and hopefully there will be some opportunities for us to make a trade for someone who can help us. As we talked about, starting pitcher, bullpen help, and or a big bat in the outfield are some obvious things that might help this squad. And Kyle Tucker is healthy and ready to go since he wasn't all that seriously injured. He has been gone a month, but we're going to put him right back into the major league lineup, batting third and playing right field for us against righties, batting third and playing center field for us against lefties. We also did bring back Ben Joyce, and we're putting him into a setup role for the time being, given how well Luke Weaver has done as a closer for us recently. So as we close in on the draft and are less than a month away from the trade deadline, at the major league level, we are healthy and well right now. Taking a look at the standings, 4 games out in the division, and 3.5 up for the final wild card spot on the Royals, who have won 4 in a row at this point. And we haven't been playing quite as well over the last few days. The record here as of July 11th, 49-40, 4 behind in the division. Still up 3.5 on the Royals for that final wild card spot, but we are 2.5 behind the Mariners and 5 behind the Red Sox for the other 2 wild card spots in the AL. So we're actually closer to a division title than we are to being the number 1 wild card team at this point. Zach Neto, 3rd in the league in stolen bases, and Luke Weaver tied for 2nd with 25 saves, are our only 2 Angels near the top of the American League leaderboards. And over in the National League, Juan Moreno, the Cuban international free agent from this past season that we offered 7 years and $280 million to, leading the National League with a 969 OPS, put up a 163 WRC plus and a 3.4 WAR on the season, as the wrench, the switch hitting infielder, is having a monster first year in Major League Baseball. And it is, as I mentioned, now draft day. We're going to be picking 14th in the draft. So as we've improved our record over the years, we've moved from picking 2nd to picking 6th to picking now 14th. And with a 49-40 record, presumably we'll be picking in the bottom half of the league next season, which will be fine with us. Probably not going to get one of the top prospects with the 14th overall pick, so we're going to go ahead and just get the draft started and see who's on the board for us. Given that it is Friday afternoon and we're heading into a weekend, and that tends to be when I have more time to play the game, can't guarantee that there's going to be an extremely long window for members of the Worldwide Scouting Department to opine on who we might want to pick up in this draft, but always interested in hearing your opinions. Hopefully some of you will be watching this in relatively short order, and I'll be able to factor your thoughts into my decision making. If not, still always useful to see what others are thinking and their rationale for either picking the same guy as me or perhaps going in a different direction. Auto draft into our pick, and we are 14th on the clock. We'll take a look at some of the top players recommended and some of the top guys out there, at least according to the mock draft. Our scout recommending shortstop Scott Gearhart, potentially incredible home run power and eye, is going to strike out a ton and struggle to make contact, but he is a very talented defensive infielder. Not great speed, but a right-handed hitting middle infielder with world-class home run power and a great eye. Even if he is going to strike out a lot, is certainly a player that has some value. Scout also likes the starting pitcher, Chris, gutted out, struck. Think that his stuff, movement, and control could all be above average to well above average. Potential 4-pitch arsenal, but he's going to need to develop a splitter, a changeup, and a curve to get there. A lot of positive personality traits for the high schooler who's expected to be able to throw in the high 90s when all is said and done. Bob Bailey, another guy who we think can be above average in all of the 3 primary pitching categories with excellent stuff and movement. Potential 4-pitch arsenal again with him, although similarly the 4th pitch not expected to be all that great. He is already fragile at 18 years old, like the high adaptability, work ethic, and baseball IQ that the Buzzard brings. And another starting pitcher, this time a college boy out of Coastal Carolina University, the left-hander Ryan Ozzie Erickson. Stuff in his movement aren't really far off major league quality already. Does have a lot of work to do with his control. Potential 3-pitch arsenal if that changeup develops, but definitely very borderline as a starting candidate given that he's already 23 and a half years old and he's got a lot of work to do to develop that 3rd pitch. There are also 3 guys who were projected to go in the top 10 who are still on the board. Second baseman Adam Thomas, pretty well-balanced bat, decent glove, decent speed, good leadership. Don't really see him as being a direction we'd go with the 14th pick. Shortstop Pete Dunbar, good gap power and power potential. Don't love the low adaptability and work ethic. Not the greatest fielder in the world, average kind of speed. And then Jason Weaver, another more mature prospect, 22-year-old out of San Diego State. A lot of negative personality traits with the low leadership, loyalty, work ethic, and baseball IQ. Does have good range and good speed. Potentially really good gap power, home run power, and eye, and he's durable. He's honestly kind of a poor man's Andres Rodriguez when we think about the guy we took in the draft a year ago. Rodriguez, better personality, better outfield range, and ultimately slightly higher ceiling as far as his batting profile. And a few other guys who were expected to go around this spot where we're picking. Second baseman Brian Yo-Yo Rahal, outstanding speed and looks like a potentially excellent contact hitter who can really drive the ball into the gaps and take advantage of that good speed for a lot of extra base hits. We already talked about Mr. Gearhart, who is the guy who was mocked to us. Third baseman Dario Diaz out of southern Mississippi. Another guy with some pretty negative personality traits, but obviously as a college player is closer to being major league productive than the high schoolers. Matt McGilvray, 21-year-old out of Lebanon Valley College. Right fielder, really good eye. Everything else kind of average. He's fragile physically, and the level of competition that he's been facing is poor. A couple other guys in the top 20 who are still available. Left fielder Gabe Wilson, another guy with a really good contact and really good gap power. Not so great as far as the home run power and eye. A lot of personality traits that are positive for Wilson. And then the final guy expected to go in the top 20, another college player, the left-handed hitting outfielder Dan Duran out of Texas A&M. Gap power and speed are the key significant attributes to his game. So we've obviously talked about some of these guys already, but we'll also kind of look at the more traditional view of our scouts' top picks. And among the position players, we already talked about Scott Gearhart. Definitely stands out for the really good defense, and the fact that he can potentially have incredible home run power to go with a great eye. Not going to hit for a high average, and he's going to strike out a ton, but still a pretty interesting skill set for a middle infielder. The other 2 guys that our scout thinks has the highest ceilings, Shortstop Chris Feld, potentially incredible contact hitter. The defense, not that great. And then third baseman Matt Munoz, another potentially incredible contact hitter who doesn't really do much of anything else. He knows how to make contact, and he's got a gun for an arm. Everything else, he's kind of average-ish or below, even at his ceiling. Turning to the highest-rated pitchers that are still available, at least according to our scout. And you can see there is a big group of 4.5-star potential pitchers with a good mix of high school and college guys. We already talked about Bob Bailey. A lot to like about him. If that changeup and sinker develop, he could be really good. Nice personality traits. Don't love that he's already fragile, but buzzard, certainly someone to consider. Jordan Bristol, another guy who we think could be above average in everything, but very reliant, as we talked about earlier, on that changeup developing to be able to be a starting pitcher. Bring out the Gimp. The Gimp's sleeping. Ryan Erickson, college player out of Coastal Carolina. Not too far off being major league ready. The question and the concern is just if that changeup doesn't develop. He's a high-end left-handed reliever rather than a starter, which might be aggressive for the 14th pick in the draft. Tyler Koopman, a reliever who looks like he could have out-of-the-world stuff. Worry a bit about the control of the Michigan State commit. He's at Pitt CC right now in Greenville, North Carolina. Jake Riley, 22-year-old out of Stanford, looks like one of the cleaner prospects. A lot of negative personality traits, unfortunately, but as far as being major league ready, probably as major league ready as anyone who's left in the draft at this point. The Toy Cannon. Who was that? Was that Jimmy Pearsall? Or no, I think it was Jimmy Wynn. I know it was someone before my time that was known as the Toy Cannon. I'll have to look that up. And it was Jimmy Wynn. I don't know where he came up with Jimmy Pearsall at first, but Jimmy Wynn was the Toy Cannon. Spent 15 years in the majors, primarily with the Houston Colt 45s and Astros from 1963 to 1973. Three-time All-Star, 250 career hitter with 291 homers, 964 ribbies. And his nickname was the Toy Cannon because his bat was described as having a lot of pop for his small size at 5'9" and 160 pounds. So I guess Jake Riley, as a starting pitcher, is nicknamed the Toy Cannon because 5'10", he's not all that big. And we do think he can hit the high 90s on the radar gun. Chris Struck, gutted out Struck, guy that we already talked about. Like a lot of the personality traits there and think that he could certainly grow into a really good pitcher. But he's got a lot of work to do to really build out a 3 or 4 pitch arsenal. 19-year-old Luis Trujillo. The stuff and the control, both potentially exceptional. Could allow a lot of home runs, though. Not a lot of movement on his pitches, but a potential 5-pitch arsenal for the FAU commit. And the last of the top-end prospects, at least in terms of their ceilings, closer Steve the Colored Dunlap Williams. Great fastball that should get into the 100-plus range. Still working on a splitter. We think his stuff could be nasty, but he's got a ton of work to do. Really good movement and really good control on his pitches also if he meets his full potential. So I don't know if there's anyone who really jumps off the page to me. Definitely like a few of the pitchers, but I'm not in love with them. Scott Gearhart, I like the defense. I like the power in the eye. I really dislike the inability to make contact and a guy who's going to be striking out 250 times a year if he plays a full season. But he is definitely a very toolsy player and going to have some interesting decisions to make. If you've got thoughts on which direction we should go, would love to hear them in the comment section. And we're going to continue between now and the next episode thinking about this draft and also really thinking about what we need to do to bring on some talent to ensure that we can guide this team into a postseason appearance and hopefully maybe set ourselves up to become a perennial postseason team here in Anaheim with the Los Angeles Angels. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.